Taoiseach, I understand that you've asked the Labour Relations Commission to engage again with the trade unions a week after Croke Park 2 was decisively rejected by workers. At the same time, of course, your government is moving forward estimates which include these pay cuts to frontline workers as a done deal. So, Taoiseach, for this new process to have any chance of success, there needs to be a real policy shift in the government approach to this. Taoiseach, have you accepted the result of the Croke Park 2 ballot? Do you accept that Croke Park 2 is now off the table? Do you now accept that the big stick approach of issuing threats and diktats to public sector workers has failed? Will you definitively state that the government threat to cut pay by 7% across the board is now off the table? Taoiseach, this needs to be a real renegotiation rather than a face-saving exercise or a tweaking. It can't be like Lisbon 2 or Nice 2. You can't keep asking workers to vote again until they give you the answer that you want them to. So, is it really back to the drawing board? Are you really open to new ideas and other ways to close the deficit? Will this be an inclusive negotiation? Will all parties be invited back to the table? And I have in mind in particular the Gardaí, the nurses, the emergency personnel, other frontline workers, some of whom were excluded from the process towards the end of the negotiation of the Croke Park 2 deal.
Well, I can confirm for the House that the Government this morning considered this matter and approved a recommendation from the Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform that in the first instance here, having noted the decision of the trades unions in their ballot on the Croke Park 2 negotiations, Mandy agreed with the Minister for Public Expenditure that the LRC, the Labour Relations Commission, should be asked to engage with the 21 unions involved to see in the first instance is there room for negotiation in respect of the outcome of the decision by the trades unions. It doesn't alter the fact, Deputy MacDonald, that the figures and the arithmetic remain the same here. There is a requirement to achieve a saving of 300 million this year from within the public payroll bill, rising to 1 billion by 2015. So, in the first instance, what the government have decided to do now is to ask the LRC to engage with the unions, having published the revised estimates, including the requirement that has been clearly set out by the Minister for Public Expenditure, who has the full backing of the government in this matter, to see is there a basis for discussion and negotiation, and the government would expect to get a response to that request and that engagement inside 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Supplementary question.
Well, I asked you a series of questions. You haven't answered all of them, with the exception of one. You're making clear that Croke Park 2 is still on the table, and I can only take from your answers that you've asked the LRC to engage with unions and with workers on that basis. You obviously hope that there can be some face-saving or some tweaking of this agreement. I wouldn't share that view. Let's remember, Taoiseach, that when this deal was produced, your government agreed alongside the trade unions that a process of ratification would be entered into. You voluntarily agreed to the notion that workers would be balloted on this agreement. The workers have come out and by a very decisive majority have rejected the agreement. So, Taoiseach, when does no mean no? And how is it that you cannot accept that democratic verdict? You say that you need to save this 300 million. Well, so be it. There are, of course, other places and other ways that you can raise 300 million. It doesn't have to be at the expense of frontline workers. It doesn't have to be at the expense of hammering the public services.
Thank you.
So you've asked them to talk to the unions to see if there's room for a negotiation on the outcome of the agreement. What exactly does that mean? Are you asking them to test the ground with the unions to see whether or not they can run the vote again? Is that your thinking? And why is it, given that you're so hell-bent on finding this 300 million, why do you put yourself in a kind of policy straitjacket? Why won't you look beyond the proposals in Croke Park to other initiatives that could raise those monies fairly? Perhaps there is an argument for a proportion of that to come from the very cosseted upper echelons of the public sector. But low and middle income workers, frontline workers, have told you in your government definitively that they have no more to give. Have you heard that, Taoiseach? Do you understand that, Taoiseach? And why do you not allow the LRC to open up the discussion in a genuine fashion, in an open-minded way, and listen to the proposals that many of the trade unions will bring forward as to how you might gather the 300 million?
Thank you, Deputy.
No does mean no, doesn't it,
Taoiseach? And Taoiseach, final reply on this question.
Well, as I said to you, the bottom line here is that government follow a plan which has made very significant progress towards rectifying our public finances, restoring some sense of confidence in the Irish economy, bringing about a situation where 1,000 jobs in the private sector are now thankfully being created every month, and leading to a position where the government were disappointed at the outcome of the vote, which, on the basis of the negotiated proposals before the trade unions, ensured that those who paid and earned the most paid the most, and that for 87% of public workers who earned less than 65,000, that their core salaries and core pay were not affected. Your own party has had views about how this should be dealt with, and I'd remind you of your proposition before the last election of 3 billion increases in taxes, which would have been catastrophic for this country, which would have deprived people of any opportunity to work, which would have left marginal rates at an exceptionally high level. It doesn't take into account the mess inherited here and the difficulties that government have had to deal with. In regard to those who earn most, clearly the 500 million package put together in the last budget comes from those who earn most. Let me repeat again, the 87% of public sector workers below 65,000 were not having their core pay or their core salaries affected. I'd also make the point to you, Deputy MacDonald, that it's important that the country and the government stick to our plan here, which is working in the sense of moving towards confidence in the Irish economy again. And as the Minister for Finance has pointed out, any flexibility that arises up ahead here should clearly be invested in infrastructure for the public good, like schools and primary care centres and public buildings, where contractors and people can have the opportunity to go to work and earn a living and have an investment for the future. Investing in minor adjustments to the social protection area will not sort out our economy. What we need to do is deal with the challenge of the scale of 14% unemployment and a live register of 400,000 people. And that means investment in infrastructure in which people can be employed and have meaningful jobs. So, as I said at the beginning, Deputy MacDonald, the decision of government was to approve the recommendation of the Minister for Public Expenditure, to ask the LRC to engage with the unions involved, to see now is there a basis following the outcome of the vote for a negotiated agreement on 300 million of savings this year. And as I said, Minister would expect that he would have a response inside about 2 weeks.